So before I hand over to ma'am, I'd just like to introduce her. So Miss Vaneeta Patnaik, she's an associate professor of law at NUJS. She has been teaching since 2003. Her subject specializations are corporate insolvency, insurance, mergers and acquisition, international investment laws, international commercial instruments, and laws of banking. She was the first Indian student to study at the Summer Academy at the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea for Uses and Protection of the Sea, Legal, Economic, and Natural Science Perspectives, Hamburg, Germany, with a full scholarship. She did her Master of Law and Business Management from Bucerius Law School, for which she was granted full academic scholarship. She has had research scholarship from Max Planck, Hamburg, University of Dundee, Scotland. She has delivered lectures both in India and abroad, and among some of the institutions where she has lectured are Hamburg University Global Insolvency Program. She has experience as consultant to Insol International. She has been a contributor to many industrial publications and academic publications on a range of subjects, like insurance to arbitration. And we are very lucky to have us here with us today.
Good morning, everybody. So, very briefly, my name is Vaneeta Patnaik, and I have been a faculty at the National University of Juridical Sciences since 2003. Currently, I'm associate professor. I also head the Center for Financial Laws here. We do a lot of training programs for government officials. We do a lot of various courses for non-lawyers, but this would be the first time where I would be speaking to youngsters who would be keen on taking up law as a career option for them. So, and given the interest that I'm already seeing, the numbers that have already joined, I'm really happy that there are still people who feel that this is a very viable option, and I look forward to today's session. So essentially what I will be doing in today's presentation is I'll be telling you what is law, because I'm expecting majority of you are still in school or just out of school, and then I'll tell you the various options that get as career that a law education provides you. So essentially when we speak about law and what is law, we feel that it is a very, very complicated thing. It is not. Every type of law is 90% common sense, and just a 10% of it is the laws, regulations, or interpretation of it. So if you intuitively know what is correct, you already know the law. So there are different terminologies for law, and there are different technical terms we use in different kinds of law. But essentially, it is nothing but a loose format of rules or discipline that we adopt for ourselves. So each one of you in your school will already have a set of rules that you would be following, you would be familiar with. You know that what happens when you don't do XYZ in school. So the same thing happens for everyday life too. So whenever you have any such situation wherein you have where the law applies, it is by default you know that what you're doing, which is why we say that ignorance of law is not an excuse, because you're supposed to know your law. And this is one area or one subject which essentially activates your mind in such a way that it makes you or converts you into a thinking person. So whenever we throw you a set of laws, if you follow it blindly, it's of no help. You have to understand why it is there. To give you a small example of traffic rules and regulations, so those signals, the red, green, and orange that we have, or walk on the right and drive on the left, rules that we have are essentially based on practices that we were having. So you walk on the right side of the road because you face the traffic and don't get run over from some vehicle from your back. So this is very, very intuitive, very, very organic that you would have, and it would by default would help you live a better life. So same thing with all kinds of law. So it is nothing but a formalization or a recognition of a loose lot of principles that we adopt for ourselves and say that, okay, from now on, this is going to be the law and this is what I'm going to follow. So it brings a uniformity in the public, notwithstanding where you stand. It brings a uniformity to every segment of the public. And that is what is law according to me. So when we speak of law, here I'm not getting into the hierarchy of judiciary. I'm not getting into the different enforcement agencies or anything of that sort. I'm simply getting into the what is law. So you see, you have basically into substantive and procedural law. Substantive law is like, the theory part of law, and your procedural law is what applies. Similarly, the public and private law, what applies to me as a private citizen and what applies to me as a citizen of this country is what differentiates between a public and private law. So anything that affects me individually in my individual capacity is a private law. Like your law of contract, it's a private law. But if you say civil procedure code or transfer of property, so or CRPC, all of these would be public laws because they govern the public in general and not any one particular individual. So these are the four differentiation, and I'll go one by one. The distinction between the systems, so common law and civil law is nothing but the distinction between the two systems. And the common law countries are usually the countries that had been at one point of time ruled by the Britishers. So every country that was ruled by the Britishers, who have got a legacy of laws from them, are known to follow the common law system. What is a common law system? Common law system does not typically have any set pattern other than the fact that the judges decide the law and any arguments are based upon precedents. So what has happened before, how the judges treated it. It is slightly different from civil law system because in civil law system, the judges go open the book and then get into the book and see what the law says. So the judge becomes the investigator essentially. So both the parties, the lawyers of both the parties would lay all the documents or evidences, and then the judge would then shift through it and then come to a point and say, okay, this is, you are right and you are wrong. Whereas in a common law system, a judge would not read those documents but would hear both the parties' arguments and then come to a judgment saying that, okay, this has the most persuasive argument. So you can never be right completely or completely be wrong in a common law system. India, while it was ruled over by the Britishers, interestingly follows a hybrid system. It is no longer entirely common law because we have codified many of our laws, and in recent times we have seen that the laws have become more specific with all the rules therein put in. So we are moving towards the civil law system, but we still follow the adversarial. That means one defense lawyer against the prosecutor or the prosecution against the defense. We still follow that. So we are a hybrid system. We are neither completely common law system, nor are we completely civil law system. We follow a middle path wherein both the laws or both the system, best of both the systems is adopted. And it perhaps puts us at a much better position already because we take the best practices from both and tailor it to suit us.
We have a question. Somebody wants to know what is the difference between developed and developing countries' law systems? Are they more enhanced?
See, this distinction between a developed and a developing country is more of a perception. What is a developed country and what is a developing country or what is an underdeveloping country, it differs from where you see it. If you're seeing it from the social security perspective, any country that provides a form of social security to all its citizens without distinction is definitely a much more developed country than a country which does not have any social security. When I mean social security, I mean, let's say, medical treatment, let's say insurance or a pension to live on. And a country which provides to a select group, that is only a part of the population, is definitely a developing country. If you want to look at it from the legal perspective, there is literally no distinction. You have some wonderfully well developed laws in some of the developing countries or even underdeveloped countries, and not so developed laws when it comes to the first world countries. Like, for example, your maternity benefits. In maternity benefits, a first world country like United States of America does not believe in giving paid leave to the mothers, new mothers, whereas a country like India provides something up to 6 months of paid leave compulsorily the moment you are a mother. So it is a social benefit that is passed on. Similarly, you have the European countries which provide anytime up to 2 years of leave if you are a mother. So how you look into it is more based on the social benefits that you can provide to your citizens rather than what the law says. So a law can only substantiate so much of the practices. It cannot create a practice. India is a developing country, you're correct. And we are, hopefully we should reach at some very quickly the position where we would be able to provide some form of social security to almost all our citizens. The movement has already started. You have states providing some form of social security to the most underprivileged, but the sheer number of population, the large size of population that we have, is itself a huge challenge to providing social security to one and all. So criminal law and civil law. Civil law is an injury, does not harm your person. So which means when you're talking about criminal law, it provides for an offense and for a punishment. So it is very beautifully divided, the criminal law part, into three parts. One is where you are having the crime or the offense that has been committed, that has been described. Next is where you have the punishment for it, for the offense that it has been made. And third is where the evidence, how to evaluate the evidence that is there in order to establish such a crime. So you have the criminal procedure code, the penal code, and you have the evidence act. So you have all these three things that go together in making a criminal law work. Besides this, you also have some very specific laws for white collar crimes, like, your prevention of money laundering and other laws. Those are much more advanced laws, but essence is based upon these three: your CRPC, IPC, and evidence. Civil law is any other law that is not a criminal law. So every other law would fall under civil law other than personal laws, which means if I'm a Hindu, if I'm a Muslim, if I'm a Christian, if I'm a Parsi, India's constitution permits each one of these individuals in their private sphere, like my marriage, my child's birth, my child's religion, my death ceremonies, the distribution of my property, to be decided as per the personal laws of India. Now let's come to the key skills that we look for in a law student. But before I get into this, I did spy a question which asked, what is the eligibility to be a lawyer? Is there any age cap on being a lawyer? So interestingly, there is no age cap on being a lawyer. You can become a lawyer at any point of time you want to, but you can write the CLAT necessarily if you want to get an admission into a law school. So right now there are 22 law schools all across India, and more states are coming up with their own NLUs, and each of these NLUs are dedicated to essentially propagate the education of law. And for this, we have annually an examination that's called the Common Law Entrance Examination, that is your admission test. And this is held in the month of December. So the forms for it would open up sometime in August, July, August, and you would have the exams in December and the admission process, and we start the semester. Like we close now, and we start the semester in the month of 15th of June. We start the semester with the new batch. So if you are writing the 12th standard exam, you can also give the CLAT exam, and the admission will be a provisional admission subject to the fact that you clear your 12th. We are not looking into this 12th percentage at all. What we look into is, we look into whether you have cleared your 12th. We have had few instances where people have cleared CLAT but have not managed to clear 12th. So I'll ask you to focus on clearing 12th first. That is the most important thing that you need to do. And you need to have a good grade, not just for clearing CLAT, but for your own self. So you require to be at least a 12th standard graduate pass, and then you write the CLAT, you take the admission, and then you become a law student. The first thing that we look into a law student, or what a law student should have, is that a law student should have the ability of understanding instructions and following them. Point is, following of instructions is the first foremost requirement for any lawyer. We are by nature extremely obedient. Because we are obedient, we can question, we follow the strict instructions. We are very good at following instructions. You give us an instruction, we will follow it through. We won't deviate, neither will we let you deviate. So that is the reason why we are the very, very argumentative lot. So the first and foremost thing that we ask the students is to question everything and anything. The best thing that my university provides to the students is it provides an ecosystem where they have a freedom of disagreeing with a lot of politeness. So the difference in between the student arguments that we have at our university and some other educational institution, we do not permit the student to get agitated. We do not permit the student to get angry or shout. We say, if you have a point, put it across. You disagree, so be it. But you have to be clever in putting your point across. So that is what we require. We require the students to be analytical. We require the students to be very precise in what they are thinking and what they're asking. It is not just the question, but what is the question you are asking and how you frame it. Many a times depends on your thinking process. So what we try to hone is the thinking process of the student. So this automatically brings me to the listening skills. A good lawyer most definitely has to be a good listener. He has to be smart, or she has to be very smart in the communication. You have to know when to speak. You have to be very aware of when not to speak at all. So every lawyer needs to have the listening skills more than the speaking skills and the research skills, just to find out where you stand, or if there is any provision that is beneficial for you. Your case is the most important element that you can have in your arsenal. Having said or given you an expectation of what we demand from students, and plus of course it has to be time bound, I'll now come to the different courses that we offer, like different courses of law that is provided for. So mostly you will find that the universities provide LLB degree and then a specialization on LLB. So you will have universities saying we provide BBA LLB, BSc LLB, BA LLB. But at the end of the day, the degree that you really require to be able to practice or work in any law firm is the LLB degree. So there is very little distinction in between a degree of BSc LLB or BA LLB. If you have an interest in science background and law background, you can choose to go in for BSc. Like somebody who is interested in sociology would need to study the sociology, history, your basic political science in the first 2 years. Like the first years, it's given to the social sciences, economics, political science, history, sociology is taught, and then we go on to the law subjects. And no, you do not really require maths. But having said that, numbers, understanding numbers is a big help for lawyers, primarily because we deal in numbers. We deal with what section, where, which act. So numbers, understanding of numbers is always helpful, but you do not have to have an advanced knowledge of algebra or anything such complicated mathematics. You really do not require maths for practicing law. So there is very little difference between these different degrees. This distinction is more to provide you the basic subjects more than anything else. Now, you will also find a lot of institutions saying that they'll give you degrees of various degrees in maybe AI, artificial intelligence, cyber law, criminal law, business law, IPR. These are nothing but specific streams or different streams of practice. That so it is much more specific. When you are entering into LLB, you have to learn everything in order to get into LLM. LLM, it is a little bit more specific. Like I had the corporate stream at NUJS. So under this, we have the variety of corporate laws, which the students would need to learn before they clear the LLM. Plus, you will be expected to write a dissertation too. So this dissertation is of 20,000 words that you will have to write and then defend it, and then you get awarded your degree of LLM. Similarly, we also have intellectual property, we have criminal law, we have international law, we have technology law. So these are nothing but groupings of subject that are specific. So law behaves differently from area to area, but at the end of the day, it also straddles multiple worlds, in the sense that you may have a corporate criminal practice wherein you will be doing corporate law, but you will need to understand criminal law in order to get into the nitty-gritties of crimes which the companies would be caught in. So essentially, while we make the distinction, we also understand you will not be able to clearly make a clear-cut distinction. So it straddles different worlds. You have to have a basic understanding of each to be a successful lawyer. Now, how do you become a lawyer? You become a lawyer by doing a law degree. If you choose to do a 5-year law, 12th standard is the basic minimum education level we require, and you write your exams, be it your CLAT, CLAT, or LSAT, or any other typical exams that many institutions have at their own level. Symbiosis, I know, has its own exam. Then you have NLU Delhi, it has own exam. Then you have, I'm not able to recall all, but all of these exams, they come in and around the same time. So that they provide you 5-year degree. 3-year degree, interestingly, is meant for people who have already completed the basic graduation. So after your 12th, you do 3 years of education and then you become a basic graduate. When you have completed your basic graduation, you can do 3 years of law. So what you would have completed in 5 years, you now complete in 6 years. That's the only difference. Once you graduate, you can again register yourself to be a lawyer and you can practice. So these are the two streams that you have wherein a student can choose to become a lawyer, either when he clears the 12th or when he clears his basic graduation. If you are choosing to do a 5-year integrated, these are the distinctions I've already explained to you. So don't get demotivated if you say, oh, I'm getting only BA LLB and some other friend of mine has got a BBA LLB or a BTech LLB. It doesn't make any difference. At the end of the day, when you go to BCI, that is your Bar Council of India, for registration, what you require to have is a LLB degree. A BA, BCom, BBA, BTech, all of these are mere nomenclature to make you study subjects extra over and above your law subjects. What you study in law and how you secure or understand the law is the most important bit. If you ask me, a BA LLB is more than sufficient and suffices because it provides you this platform to become a good lawyer. Does BBA LLB make you a better lawyer? Not necessarily, but it's not a bad thing if you have managed and if you have an interest in management to take a BBA LLB. So it is not like one is bad and the other is good. All are equally good. They just give you different subject combinations to study. Now let me come to the postgraduate. Many a times what happens is once you've finished your LLB, you want to study further. If you are wanting to study further, you do a master's in law. This master's in law is what we call the LLM program. For an LLM program, if you do at a central university, it is 2 years. Like if you chose to do it from Kalyani, it is 2 years. From Burdwan, it's 2 years. But if you do from an NLU, it is 1 year. So an LLM, that's the only distinction. Both have LLM degree. If you do from the conventional universities, you can do it in 2 years. If you do it from non-conventional, that is single faculty university, you do it in 1 year. And universities, again, depending upon their faculty strength, they offer a variety of LLM. So what we offer like those 5 streams I've already explained to you: LLM in corporate, LLM in criminal law, in international law, in law and technology, in your intellectual property. So whatever an institution offers is usually dependent upon their faculty strength. So we have very good faculty strength, so we offer these 5 streams. Tomorrow, if we increase our faculty strength, we might be offering new streams. But essentially, every institution will offer more than one choice of LLM selection. So you can choose what your specialization is. When you choose a specialization, what happens? When you choose a specialization, you study particularly those subjects. Yes, you will have two or three common subjects, but primarily you'll be reading more and more about a specific stream of subjects. For LLM, the basic eligibility is your LLB degree. For PhD, it's LLM. But if you've done your post graduation in any other subject, you can still do a PhD in law. So at the PhD level, there is no distinction whether you're a LLB student or a non-LLB student. You can do PhD. We have a lot of interdisciplinary students who do a lot of doctoral research, and we welcome that, and it increases our own understanding of different areas of life. So for a PhD, you do not require an LLB, but for an LLM, you require a basic LLB degree. So these are the entrance exams. So till now we were having all these questions, and I had mentioned some of you, and even this one is not totally comprehensive. You have to look into what other exams are there. So you have the basic CLAT that institutions like mine they offer. LSAT is again a general exam that is again the score is taken by a lot of law schools. mm, Jindal Law School, particularly, I think, looks into LSAT, but there are others as well who look into LSAT. We have quite a number of good private law universities that have come up in and around. It's very flourishing. In Calcutta, you have Xavier's, which is private but is also equally very good. Then IELT is what NLU Delhi does. They are not part of the CLAT consortium. So if you want to study at NLU Delhi, you'll have to write the IELT exam. So each one of these have separate exams. Similarly, your Calcutta University and all its colleges under it will also have a common exam. So the state level exam is the exam that you will have to write to study at the Calcutta University in its various campuses. Now, once you've become a lawyer, what do you do? Which area do you have to go and practice necessarily, or can you do any job? There is no end to job opportunities for a lawyer. So if you truly want to practice because you're passionate about it, you can, or because you have your family chamber, you can. If you don't have a family chamber, like for me, I'm the first generation in law, um, and I was always wanting to teach, so I got into teaching. So you see, by default, you have every other choice that you want. I have had students who have become judges. I have had students who have become revenue officers, have cleared UPSC, have cleared, I have become IS officers, civil servants. And a big chunk of students from law schools go to do law firm jobs. So large number of law firms keep looking for law students. You can become a legal journalist. You can become an in-house counsel, which means you can work in different companies. You can work in different government companies like your ONGC, HPCL, your any other Coal India. So all these places they come and recruit. So you can work at any of these Navratna companies of India. You can simply get into teaching if that inspires you. You can do policy think tanks. So there is no end to the career options. So whatever career option you would have normally if you did a graduation are all the career options that would be available to you if you are doing law plus one, which means you will be able to do your legal practice, you'll be able to do judiciary, you will be able to do independent practice on your own besides taking up all those jobs. And you can move. The career parallel movement is very, very strong amongst lawyers. Now, what happens? Just to give you a slideshow into the different types of working world. Lawyers and law firms are always infamous for their timings. Like they maintain long hours primarily because the clients would be free in the evening. So if you have a mentioning next day or a case next day, you will have to prepare through the night to be ready for the next day. So your previous night number crunching or your legal crunching that you do is what consumes the majority of time. So the usually if you are a practicing lawyer, your weekend would be just one evening, maybe the Friday evening or a Saturday evening that you would be having off, because Sundays necessarily are working days. So law firms are good primarily because they allow you to work in that bandwidth without always getting into the court system. So you do not have to get into the court system to become a litigating lawyer. If you're in a law firm, you can also do the work that is required, the preparatory work sitting in the law firm. And they have a very, very nice formalized structure. So yes, you have to work hard, but no, you don't have to get onto the law courts every time that you're working on some case. So these are some of the pros and cons that that coming working from a law firm needs. So you do have a good pay because they know the number of hours they're making you work, they know what they're asking you to do, so accordingly they compensate you, and sometimes they compensate you really well. And it is unlike your independent practice where you're solely dependent upon who your client is. Here you're working for somebody else who set up a firm, so it's almost like a job where you do it for the benefit of someone else, but then it has definite its pluses and minuses.
How competitive is the law admission process?
Law exam is very competitive. So for every seat you have, like in the last CLAT, I think more than 1 lakh students wrote for something around 2,000, 3,000 seats. So it is competitive, but not definitely as competitive, like say, for example, NEET, which
Okay,
is around the corner.
that's right. Um, Ma'am, why are Indians moving outside India even if there are enough opportunities for law here? That's the
See,
question.
in, now there I have to break it into two parts. When Indians move abroad, it is for education. Like I went off for 6 years. I went off essentially to educate, to see the world, to see how things are done differently. But then I came back. I think when I came back, I was a much more enriched person with a much more open mind, and open. I had different methods of doing the same thing. So it's always good to go abroad, but it's even better to come back.
Okay.
Somebody choosing to go anywhere, settling, that's a personal choice. But generally, these are the reasons why one would want to go abroad.
Ma'am, what subjects does one need to study in school or in class 12 to study law? Is there any
You
specific
can
subject?
you can study any subject you want. Not
So it
any.
does not matter whether you're from commerce or
Absolutely,
science or
absolutely,
right.
absolutely.
Okay. Ma'am, what is arbitration in law court?
In a law court, what you have is the state has provided a building, a judge. It has provided the entire system. Whereas in an arbitration, you choose your own judge, you choose your own space where you want the court to be, and you pay for it. So the reason why arbitration many times is seen as more expensive because you're paying the judge. In a normal court, you would not pay the judge.
What?
You're paying for the space that you have taken, because in a court you don't have to pay for the space. You simply have to pay your lawyer and get your case done.
Okay.
So
Ma'am,
which is why it's more expensive.
okay. Ma'am, do the NLUs offer BCom LLB?
They do. A lot of NLUs do.
Okay.
Again, but I'll repeat myself. To practice law, to become a lawyer, to do law, you do not require anything other than LLB. But to get LLB, you need to do something else with it. So we offer BCom, BBA, BTech. So we offer a large number of combination of all these things.
Right. Can we do a double master's in any course?
Simultaneously, perhaps not. We don't have the policy as of now. Sometime in future, if what the UGC is thinking goes well, then yes, we might, but not otherwise.
We had another question. Ma'am, can I become a judge without being a lawyer?
Yeah, you can become a judge without being a lawyer, but not in the judiciary. We do, each one of us do judge every single day basis. Maybe our friends, maybe our relatives, maybe ourselves. But on a serious note, like many of the tribunals, they have technical members. who are not having legal training. So we take like NCLT or your tax tribunal or your other scientific bodies. They take technical members, so you can be part of the judiciary. But for becoming a judge, let's say in the lower courts, in the district courts, or in the high court, or at the Supreme Court, you require an LLB degree.
Okay. We have a question. If someone doesn't have much experience on debating or public speaking, but still desires to be an advocate, is that possible? What do you suggest?
Very much so. Many of my most successful students who have become lawyers are people who were not brilliant at debating, but they were brilliant at analytical skills. So to practice, like, for example, tax law, international tax law, for example, you need to be supremely analytical. You do not have to be a debater. You have to put your points forth very strongly. So you do not require debating skills.
Okay.
That's a misunderstanding a lot of people have. We do not debate all the time.
Right. I'm going to read out the next question. Ma'am, I'm interested in science but aspire to be a justice. Can you please help me by answering the question? If I choose science as a stream in my school till class 12, will it be advantageous for me to crack CLAT with its subjects like legal reasoning?
Absolutely. See, law is a thinking process. It's a mind thing. Absolutely. So we have analytical question paper, legal reasoning, logical reasoning. These are the papers. So you study science by all means. You will be a much better person doing something that you love than being forced into doing something that you don't love. So you have intellectual property laws, you have other laws where science is a base background, and having a knowledge of science is definitely helpful. Like forensic laws, for example, you require a biology understanding. So that's definitely helpful.
Okay. Ma'am, you just told us that you've had students who've gone on to, crack the UPSC and get into other higher judicial exams. So are there any specific subjects that are helpful for students for cracking these exams going forward?
Each one of these exams have their own set of syllabus and they require preparation. What our students do is they already know that they want to get into civils and they start preparing from their third year. So they come in the first, second year, they are studying here, third year onwards, they are like starting the preparation. So they have a head start in the preparation, which is why they have been able to crack it. The same thing goes for judiciary exams as well.
Okay. And we have another interesting question. Somebody's asked, is it possible for me to do my LLB here and then do my postgraduate abroad and practice law abroad?
Yes, it is possible. It's not like it's impossible, but it is very difficult as well. We have had a large number of students who have done it. So different law firms abroad, they take as your training contracts, they take in different formats for internships, secondments, and you can do it. It's not an impossible task.
Okay. How are internships in law, and are they important and how are they important?
They are mandatory. It's not important. They're mandatory. So the first year of law, we expect you to do an internship in the summer vacation as well as in the puja break for us.
Okay.
So we expect you to do it in any type of civil society organizations like NGOs or anything else. By the second year, we expect you to get into trial courts and different other court systems with lawyers of different varieties. By third year, we expect you to do internship with different law firms, getting corporate knowledge or any other knowledge that you want to specialize in. By fourth year, we have a day zero, which is organized by the students, wherein you get your placement. So you have your job already done and dusted in fourth year. Once you have your job with you, you study the fifth year and you bid us goodbye. So it is a mandatory part of our education.
How do you suggest a person can balance the demands of a legal career with their personal life and other responsibilities?
See, when you are truly having a lot of things to do, you automatically get smart about scheduling your life. So we have had students who have, when they come to Kolkata, for instance, because we're pretty much nicely located, they take up training, dance training or music training or theater. We have had a very good theater. So we have a lot of small clubs, student clubs, wherein they do a lot of these cultural activities all through the year. So they divide their study time and their leisure time very strongly. And they are very good at both, I have to say. So you have to divide it in what you want to do and what you have to do. So as long as you've taken care of what you have to do, you'll find that you have a lot of time to do what you want to do.
Ma'am, what are some of the biggest challenges facing the legal profession today? How do you see these challenges evolving in the future?
Okay, the biggest challenge that we face in the legal system today is there is very little uniformity.
Okay.
In the sense, when you get into a court system, there is very little uniformity or predictability. So as time goes by, as uniformity sets in, as predictability goes, it becomes much easier to practice. It becomes much more easier to know that, okay, these are the set of facts that we have, so we can expect a judgment of this order. So right now there is very little predictability, but I'm assuming as we progress, it keeps getting more and more efficient and we get better and better judgments. So if you ask me, in 5 years time, will the practice of law would have changed? Most definitely. When I studied law, there was hardly anybody studying law. So you studied law because you had a practice, your family practice, or you studied law because you wanted it. So I was one of the rarities who wanted to study law. And right now the students are eager to study law because it gives them a variety, a bouquet of opportunities. And as we progress, I expect it to keep growing.
How important is networking in the legal profession, and what tips do you have for students who want to build their professional networks?
Networking is extremely important. The moment you become a student of law, I would definitely recommend that you open a LinkedIn page more than your Facebook or Instagram or any other social media. LinkedIn is the place where you should be. And networking helps. It always helps you climb up along with others. It's pretty crucial, should say.
What are some common misconceptions about the legal profession that you usually face with your students?
That it is very easy, that you don't have to work a lot, and that it is just something that you can faff your way around. So these are some of the basic misconceptions we have, and particularly when we have postgraduate level students who come from different variety of background to us. So I do have a tough time saying that, well, when you write something or read something, please understand, because I've been teaching for donkey years, I've already gone through it. So that been there, done that concept, it helps. So the research writing skills, though it looks very easy when it's translated onto the paper, putting it down is equally difficult. So these are some of the hurdles that are never foreseen by the students. Even in LLB, when they come in, the concept of project paper writing is nearly non-existent. So we have to cultivate the thinking process. We have to cultivate the writing process. So, but the good part is they bloom very fast. From first year to third year, they become very good at writing. They start publishing articles. So that makes us happy. Yes.
What is the appropriate time for a student to start preparing for the entrance exams? So class 10, 11, 12, what would you suggest?
After class 10th is a good time. After you're finished and done and dusted with your 10th exams, then is a good time to start preparing.
But you should also devote enough time to your class 12 as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. As I said, what you want to do and what you have to do, you have to have clear distinction in timelines. And most important bit that I'll advise everyone here is consistency. If you're doing, do it consistently. Don't do it one day, 1 week, something of that. So do it 1 hour every single day without a break. So if you've done like a year's preparation of 1 hour, you already have 300 hours done and dusted. So you're already good at what you're doing, but that 1 hour has to be sacrosanct. All social media has to be set aside, no disturbance. Those 60 minutes have to be absolutely sacrosanct.
What are some ethical issues that lawyers may face in their careers, and how can they navigate these issues?
That's a very loaded question, Anuradha. So we do have a subject dedicated to ethics. Ethics is a huge part, not just of law, but of every other field. And lawyers, because of the training, are on the boards of ethics of almost all organizations like medical and other places.
Hmm.
Primarily, ethics is nothing but what we know it as moral science. So the point is, ethics ensures that you do not have a conflict, like you do not put your interest forward as opposed to your client's interest. So if you're putting your interest forward as opposed to your client's interest, that is called as unethical. So if you're representing your client, that has to be your interest.
How do you evaluate your own client? Is there a method of analysis or psychological skill which we need to develop?
It's an intuitive skill, and that is something I have seen most of the people have, whether irrespective of whether they're lawyers or not. They immediately in the first 5 minutes they seize up the person, they know how much this person can give or not give. And for
Right.
this, you don't have to look beyond. Then, if you just walk into any kindergarten school or into anyone who has got children, they will tell you that yes, they know how much they can get out of you. So that is a very intuitive assessment that each one of us do all the time. You don't have to be a lawyer to do it.
Ma'am, say children who are right now in school and they're considering if they want to follow law, can you talk about some qualities or some interests which can give them an indication that the legal career is the right one for them?
See, whenever you are interested in understanding why rather than what, you already have an analytical mind and you will be good at law. Many of the laws, your schools have nowadays, CBSE particularly, have already introduced legal knowledge through a subject at the 12th standard. 11th
Hmm.
standard, in fact, also CBSE has. So you already have that input. So if you're good at these things, if you're good at the social sciences, you will be by default. There is nothing to say that I'm very good at math, so I will be only good at engineering. If I'm good at biology, then I'll be very good at medical. That distinction is of history. Right now, somebody who is brilliant at math or somebody who is brilliant in every other subject will be equally a brilliant lawyer. So you do not have to be an outgoing social person to be a lawyer. You can be a very, very introvert person as well, and you will be equally be a fantastic lawyer because you know how to argue or you know how to analyze. So yeah, if you're interested in law, you should definitely do law. If you're not interested in law, please don't do law because it is the hottest subject on the table right now, or because your parents want you to be lawyer, or because your family history is full of lawyers. Just follow your heart and you'll be automatically good at what you do.
I think you've already answered my next question. What advice would you give to students who are considering law school or a career in law? Is there anything else you'd like to tell them?
I would like to tell them one thing, that consistency, if you can develop that as a habit, you will already be good. Lawyers don't have any secret sauce other than pure consistency. So every single day, the same thing is done over and over and over and over again. So it is more like practice makes perfect. So we take it to another level. We keep repeating it through our life. So there is no end to studying. There's no end to understanding or learning new things if you're a lawyer. So every day is a new day of learning.
What about students who are interested in studying specific areas of law? What is the best way to prepare themselves? And are there any areas which are better than others? That's exactly the question you've got.
See, there is no area which is better than other or worse than others. The moment I say this is better than others, then I make something worse than others.
Yeah.
But there are certain areas which are upcoming, new, are relevant, or specific, very niche areas where nobody wants to go into. So those areas we could do with more people there. So like for example, tax practice, that's an area that we need more people. It's a very niche area and it has got such a huge scope of growth. Similarly, in corporate law, there are specific areas, regulatory laws like electricity, like telecom. They're very specific laws, where we could do with more people there. So similarly, you have very many subjects which we do offer and we expect the students to take up based upon their understanding or liking for the subject. And there is nothing like a bad law or a good law. It's how you use it that makes it a bad or good thing.
So, ma'am, these subjects that you were just telling us about, these areas, niche areas of law where there is still a need, can this also can we also say that that means that there are more opportunities for employment in these areas?
See, as a lawyer, you are already employable in a variety of roles. So if you have an interest, let's say, for example, today I develop a keen interest in regulatory subjects. So I can start learning because I already have the basic legal education. Again, before we end, like I'll repeat this time and again, legal education is a training of the mind. It trains you on how to think, how to analyze, and how to dissect any concept. So this dissection is what makes you stand out from the crowd.
Right. Ma'am, the other hot topic right now is technology. So, what role does technology play in the legal profession, if any? And is that a specialization? I mean, can people do engineering after law, for instance?
No, you cannot do engineering, but engineers can do law.
No.
So you
And
have like IIT Kharagpur who takes BTech engineers to do LLB subjects.
Okay.
You can do law after engineering, not the other way around.
Right. And does technology play a law in the legal profession?
It
currently?
plays a huge role. It plays a very huge role. Without technology, we would be in, I don't know, in backwaters. Because if I have to produce a legal research, a good legal research, I'm completely dependent upon the resources that is available to me. If I have to ensure that it is without mistakes, I'm again dependent upon software like Grammarly and others. If I want to produce something that is absolutely unique and original, again, I'm dependent upon Turnitin and similar software. So you see these plugins that has been developed over a period of time, and I think it will keep developing more and more. They're absolutely critical. Not just for the education sector, but for every other. Some of the law firms use a lot more software than any law schools do. It just makes life easier.
Yes, and nothing works without technology these days.
Nothing works without technology.
Yeah, true. Ma'am, I think that's about it. We've covered pretty much all the questions that we had during the session as well as that we had collected previously. If you would like to say something to the students before we close the session.
Not really. Again, I'll just repeat that one thing, that you need to be extremely consistent. Just set out 1 hour. Don't even make it 2 hours. Just make it 1 hour, 60 minutes. And put a countdown clock when you start that. Till the countdown clock is done, don't get up from your seat. Don't look into anything else. Don't eat, don't sleep, don't do anything. So finish the countdown clock, get up and do whatever you want to. So the more you repeat it, you'll find that you're covering up more and more. And this holds true even when you've cracked CLAT, got into admission, and you're studying for your semester. I still say the same advice to my students. Set apart 2 hours, and that's it. All I require is 2 hours of your day.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for this very insightful and illuminating session that we did this Saturday morning. And thank you to all the students, everybody who's been with us throughout the session. We hope it was fruitful for you, and we look forward to seeing you in another webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anuradha. It was certainly wonderful.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.